hope you're all well, and I hope you're really excited for today's Job Truth series on data analytics and math. We have three amazing guests who will walk through their experiences and also answer any burning questions you have. As Emma said, the first hour will be just asking questions, and then the last half an hour will be an opportunity for your questions to get answered. So I guess we'll just jump right into it, and maybe the speakers can introduce themselves. Maybe we can start with Daniela.
Yeah, sure. So I'm data science manager at Lendlease. I'm managing a small team of data scientists and analysts. And before joining Lendlease, I held a different position within data science in different industries and countries, primarily the UK, and then I moved here in Australia.
Thank you. And could you tell more about maybe your educational background or how
you sure.
Data science?
Yes, sure. So I graduated in economics, and I was always interested in numbers. And what fascinated me about numbers was the fact that through analysis, I could understand how people behaved and also the impact of economic trends or economic policies. And so my studies focus on time series analysis and macroeconomics. I graduated in Italy, but then did a master in the UK, specialized in econometrics and time series. Moved to London, where I worked as an economist for a number of years. In finance, and then I moved into investment banking. From there, moved to Australia, got transferred internally, and then the GFC hit. And so my role was made redundant, and I recycled my skills and worked for CoreLogic for a number of years. And if you're not aware, CoreLogic is basically a company that thrives on data. They gather all data about real estate properties, and so my skills were obviously appealing to the company. And from there, I grew and started then managing teams. But again, if you look at my background, I moved across different industries and different positions, but it was always related to data. Analyzing data, uncovering trends and insights from data, and that's what's driving me even nowadays.
It's great to hear, thank you. I guess we can go into Vaishali. Maybe you can introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi everyone. I'm quite excited actually today to join all of you. So I work at Altery, which is the end-to-end self-service data analytics platform. I work as technology evangelist there. I've recently joined actually, it's been about 6 months and quite a lot of journey, lots of new learnings and meeting lots of new customers across industry. My background, so I'm ex-Tableau, if you know about the data visualization analytics firm. So I was lucky to be at the right time, right place kind of thing. I was the 10th employee in APAC, first product consultant from a technical standpoint. So traveled quite a lot, learned analytics, data visualization in that space. Jumped to a few companies as well, global as well as local, including Capgemini, RXP services. But overall, my career was more inclined towards customer facing, focusing more on business communication. I was always shy of coding, although I'm an engineer in electronics and communication, but my focus was more about getting those business insights, finding those value in how I can combine the value of data to have those data-driven decisions. We'll share more in the future questions.
That's brilliant, thank you. And I guess our last speaker is Jenny.
Hello, yes. Jenny Lewis, I currently work for SAP. I've been with SAP for about 12 years. My current role has me as an innovation evangelist. And I've worked in a number of different roles, starting out more from a technical point of view, and then moving into sales and marketing, where I was lucky enough to become part of our global sponsorship team at SAP, where we manage some of the biggest sports brands around the world. And my focus today will be talking about the story I had with the WTA, the Women's Tennis Association, where I was lucky enough to spend 8 years on the tennis circuit, working with the best female players and their coaches all over the world, using data science to analyze their patterns of play. So the different sort of skills I had through coding skills and also some communication. I studied radio as a spare unit when I was at university as well, allowed me to combine the technology passion as well as being able to communicate with people. So that's what I'll sort of focus on with you today.
Awesome. Thank you, Jenny. So those are our three speakers for tonight. It's really interesting to see how you got into this industry and I guess your understanding how it's progressing in the future and what skills are needed. So I guess we can like jump right into the questions. What does a typical day of a week look like in your job? Maybe we'll just start with Jenny.
So obviously things are a little different for me now, obviously that we're in lockdown. So I'll talk a little bit about what it was like when I was sort of living the dream of being out there on the road. So we saw an opportunity when SAP looked to partner with the WTA, we looked for an opportunity where technology could be included in the sport. So I was lucky enough, I've been playing tennis since I was 4 years old. I coached through university, so I had a background of the type of people that I needed to talk to, and because of my coding skills, so I did a Bachelor of Applied Science and I can write code, and then moved into more database and analytics. So my day-to-day job was really working with the players and the coaches to sit down with them and actually ask them what type of data is important to them to be able to perform at their optimum. So I literally would sit down, you know, with some of the best tennis players in the world, ask them what they needed, and then be able to go away and code and show them visualizations. And then from there, the conversations grew. So, you know, a typical day for me on the tour would be to really sit around. Tennis players spend an awful lot of time lazing around, not doing anything, right, in getting ready for matches. So rain delays or things like that, there was a great opportunity to sit with them. I was also lucky enough to work with some of the legends. So we also started working with the media. So a lot of the stuff was really interviewing, running design thinking sessions. And in the early days, I did all the coding myself in mocking up the look and feel of reports. And then lucky enough, I brought on a team of engineers who actually did the development work. So we traveled the world. I brought a group of programmers to Dubai and we sat in the sun for 45 degrees heat, trying to work out if we were to deliver technology to the tennis court, how would it work? So for us, it was really around interviewing, understanding the requirements, and then building out those requirements in a cloud-based solution, so we were able to make those adjustments. So it was kind of lots of travel, lots of fun, lots of communication skills in being able to interview and find out what people needed from the solution that we were providing to them. So that's a little bit of an idea of what we were doing on a day-to-day basis.
Sounds very exciting. Maybe I can move to Vaishali and maybe tell us about what your day-to-day looks like and how it would be very different to Jenny, or maybe similar.
I liked your stories, Jenny. I can just hear them all night, I guess. My week typically, so it's quite interesting. I love talking to customers, so that's the best part of my week, and lots of meetings with customers. Because Alteryx is the leader in automatic process automation, analytic process automation, where we kind of provide a single platform end-to-end for our customers who want to learn about analytics, data science, or process automation. So we cater to a variety of industries, variety of departments. And on a very similar, single day, I might be talking to finance team, in a tax department, audit department, talking to a healthcare company the very same afternoon, talking to a big four bank the very next day. So the variety that I get to hear, the business problems, the challenges they all have. And again, because the platform itself is so easy, it's a very code-free and code-friendly environment. So talking to any level or department is quite easy. On one simple week, I might be talking to a C-suite, a C-level executive who wants to focus on, the business outcomes or the culture. They want to enhance the culture of analytics across the organization. Or I might be speaking to an analyst who wants to understand, all right, I have this problem in Excel. How can I save my 4 hours or 5 hours that I spend every single, week with my weekly reports, monthly reports? How can I make my life better? So that's one really interesting part of my job, talking to different customers, different industries and roles, personas, as we call them. The second bit is obviously talking internally within the team itself. So within the sales engineering team, as well as the account executives, understanding how different accounts should be planned some adoption for them, enterprise readiness in terms of the technical space, as well as from the business and the culture perspective, upskilling people, etc. There's a lot of learning in this space, which I absolutely love. And as it's a code-free and code-friendly environment, I get to learn a lot of new technologies, what's happening in the market. So keeping myself updated, in the industry, things are changing so fast, and Alteryx itself is coming out with so many new products and releases every single time. So kind of keeping myself updated. It's also quite competitive, I would say, a healthy competition. So every week my team sits down, we have weekly challenges, we throw challenges at each other. Solving, getting certified is another, good part of being engaged and getting yourself up and fresh with the latest technology. And diversity, of course, that's my personal passion, of course, and also backed by my company. So being the Stanford Women in Data Science Ambassador, as well as working at the Women in Analytics in Alteryx. It gives me a bigger platform to speak to many different companies as to how we can engage with their existing diversity platform initiatives in what can we do in terms of just in general digital literacy, not just with women, but also across organizations. So that's pretty much it. The week with customers, people, and diversity.
Awesome, thank you. That diversity part sounds very interesting. Lastly, Daniela, could you tell us what a typical day or week looks like?
Yeah, sure. So for me, it's since I'm but different in the sense that I don't have a customer-facing role, so I'm not meeting clients virtually. But at the same time, because we are developing solutions for different stakeholders within the enterprise, then I get to talk with different business stakeholders. Because obviously one thing that an analyst needs to understand is when you analyze the data, you're not alone. You don't just crunch the number, but you need the context, and you need the context from the experts that are working in certain areas of the business. And so we have obviously different projects undergoing at the moment, but I can remember one specifically that was looking at how can we get and use the data that we collect internally to assess the impact of COVID on our project sites. And so in that specific project, we were engaging different business stakeholders to try and understand the policies applied, how the data was captured through the systems, how we could extract the data and then analyze it. Obviously, part of my role, even nowadays, because I'm managing a team, is mentoring and coaching analysts, and so reviewing their work, giving them suggestions as regards to the approach, reviewing the code or the solutions they are trying to implement. Another aspect that I'm focusing at the moment regards the technologies, because obviously one thing is choosing a methodology to analyze the data, another thing is choosing services and computing tools that would allow you to implement your solution. So I'm doing a little bit of advisory and consulting work with a team of data engineers and DevOps practitioners to try and understand how we can orchestrate a series of computing services to deliver the solutions that we are creating.
Great, thank you. That's very interesting. I think I noticed with when all these you said your responses is despite coming from like different backgrounds, or I guess having different day-to-days, you had like a lot of similar qualities or skills, things like communication, teamwork. So those are the soft skills aspects, and then obviously the analytical skills. So I guess my next question is, what kind of skills or qualities would be very important in, I suppose, in the data analytics world, especially if you're coming from like different kind of various backgrounds and so on. So Jenny, could you answer that?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's interesting for the three of us have different backgrounds and different sort of day-to-day jobs. So I kind of went on a bit of a journey. I was a coder. So when I first came out of university, I was writing financial software and accounting, order entry software. And it was kind of the best lesson I ever learned was I went to a small company and there was an error in some code that a colleague of mine had written, and they took me out into their kind of loading dock and they showed me all the trucks. And they said, until you fix this line of code, those trucks are going nowhere. And to me, it was, you know, coming out of university, it was a great experience to go, well, the code that we write, we have an impact. And I really love from that point on of really being able to engage with the customer. So from that point of view, I think it's the ability of being able to communicate. But that's the great thing about this, you know, being a data scientist. Not everyone's going to want to do that, right? So what's great is that I really loved that fact of being the person who could gather the requirements, write up the specifications and build the code. But I then started to work with data scientists who didn't want to leave the office, who are some of the most brilliant minds I've ever met. So what I love about, you know, the job and the career that we have, regardless of your type of personality, there's going to be a role for you. And what I would, you know, highly recommend is that you find what you're passionate about and you pursue that. And you find then the people who can support you. I was really lucky that with the coding program that we did when we wrote the solution for the WTA, that I found a team of great developers, and 90% of them were female, all over the world. We had developers in India, we had developers in Germany, very different personalities, but we worked really well together because we defined a swim lane and we went after that swim lane. And when we didn't know how to do something, we weren't afraid to ask a question and go for support. So that's the thing I love about data science, is regardless of your personality and your skill set, you can certainly find your way and find a career if you're willing to work with other people.
Right, so there's always strength in diversity. I love that.
Yeah.
Vaishali, would you like to add to that?
I love your stories again, Jenny. Becoming a big fan of you. What I would say is being creative. I think it's really, really important. Not just like finding those hidden insights in the data. Data science is a very iterative process, and you have to be willing to embrace new technologies to see where you actually fit. As Jenny just said, you know, you can have a different persona as well. For me, I'm talking about myself. I was never a very coder type of person. I didn't enjoy coding. I was always shy about it. I felt like I could be doing much better than that. I felt that my strength was more about crystallizing the business value, talking to business, and just translating those the business requirements into the technical vision very easily. I could do that much faster, and doing the vice versa as well, which is once we get the technical solution, going back to the business and translating it back to saying them, hey, this is what we can be doing better. And I think in my career, I somehow got into the right place and right time, as I said, with Tableau, because while I was looking for jobs in Singapore, Tableau was a pre-IPO, very small startup back then. But I liked the idea as to how they were projecting about self-service analytics. And I said, yep, this sounds like me. This sounds easy. This sounds something that I would like to do, you know, just doing the drag and drop approach and they finding those hidden insights. And that's how I started getting more understanding about it. And as I spent more time with customers, I realized that all of the customers, big or small, pretty much have the same blockers. Either there is a barrier for adoption of new technologies, there's that change management issues, or there's the time to value. So you know, a project might take 6 to 9 months, and by the time the business gets the result, the questions might change by then. So pretty much all organizations face that problem of that self-service analytics, and that's what got me into Altery as well. Ultimately, learning that unifying that data science, analytics, etc. So the skills I would say is be creative, definitely. Analytical skills. You may not be very strong in coding, but there are platforms out there which are code friendly, code free. If you are very much into R and Python and other skills and whatnot, you might go and pursue them in a deeper space. But my advice remains the same, that you don't have to be shy. I mean, of technology, of data science. If you're just entering into the world, into the industry, you don't have to know it all. You know, I did it. I'm still not a data scientist. I call myself a citizen data scientist. I don't have a degree in data science, but I think I know enough as a citizen data scientist to understand how I can prepare my data, to blend it, to perform, predictive analytics, modeling, doing geospatial analysis, something that I can use my data and get to my answers quickly, as well as get the thrill while solving it.
Thank you. That was very reassuring to hear, especially about coding, because sometimes it can seem a bit intimidating. Yeah, so Daniela, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, sure. Look, I completely agree with what has been said by Vaishali and Jenny. And most importantly, I completely agree that you need to have passion, because if you don't have passion, you'll be struggling no matter what you're doing. So it's not just data science, in anything you'll be doing in your life. There's this perception there was this perception that data scientists needed to be very strong technically, a wonderful programmer or coder, and also a wonderful communicator. Luckily, this perception is changing, and so we are seeing teams that are more diversified, where we recognize there could be some component of the team, some members of the team that are very strong coding and very strong technically, who focus most of their time in doing that task specifically, while other people are more able to translate the insights into like business insights and so add value to the analysis carried out by data scientists. So again, like Jenny said, the advice is here that you don't need to specifically become the best programmer in the world or know every algorithm under the sun. Just find your niche, focus on that, because there will be diverse roles. And what I would like to add to what has been said already is that you should be open and be flexible. So, for instance, in my team, I don't look for experts in a particular language or in a particular solution. I look for people that are interested enough and open to learn, because the data scientist role that we know today won't be the same in probably 2 to 3 years. When I started as a data scientist, it has already changed massively. So you need to come with an open mind and be flexible and embrace learning your entire life, because that's what the job market will be looking. And it's the same for us, it will be the same for Jenny. We'll never stop learning. Correct.
That's really great advice. Absolutely.
Really like it, Daniela.
Yeah, that was really great to hear, especially when you were mentioning how data science changes rapidly, and especially in the recent years, data has been growing at an exponential rate, and you just have to be learning continuously. So I guess adding to that, like, how do you perceive data science to look in maybe 5 to 10 years? Even 10 years might be too far to look ahead, but maybe in the next 5 years, how would you see, I guess, like, what would you think it look like, and how do you think data science should prepare themselves?
Yeah, so look, I really liked the view of Avi Golfar. He's an economist working at the University of Toronto. And what he says is basically you need to look at the economics of data science. And so we have seen, especially in analytics, that because the costs of computing and storage and storing data is decreased massively, then you started seeing all these technologies coming up to the market that are now allowing analyzing data in bigger volumes and bigger variety, velocity, and so on and so forth. The same will apply to data science, because implementing a predictive solution will be far cheaper than it used to be in the past. So just to give you an example, at the start of my career, if we wanted to train a model, it could take weeks. You would start a program and then come back a week later and see whether the results were successful or not. Now you're talking of hours, and not even days. So because this shortened the time to deliver your solution, you should expect it to become more and more, like increase in volume. And at the same time, because it won't take long to implement, it will be cheaper. People will be using it more and more, and so become more familiar. While now it's still like we're focusing a lot on reporting and historical view. In the people culture, it will become more and more, they will be looking at predictive solution, a view, if not in the like long-term future, in the immediate future. We're thinking about, like, for instance, Google Maps is giving you a prediction of how much time it would take you to go to the airport. That's not really a prediction because it's happening now. Yeah. So this kind of very cheap forecasts will become more and more common.
Yeah, and I think, to add to that, I agree completely with the real-time analysis. I think we've gone through that phase now, as Daniela very eloquently put, that now that, the volume of data is not a problem anymore, right? So, we even work in, in the sports world, we were working with McLaren. So, a hundredth of a second, is a difference to them. So when we first started working with them, the ability of being able to crunch the numbers fast enough was the most important thing for us to be able to work with the performance of, of the car and all of those types of things. Moving into tennis, the same thing, that we were delivering real-time solutions as the players are actually hitting the ball, analysing and doing that. So I think we've gone through this just because we can. Now we probably need to look at, should we? So I think what we'll find is that we'll start to learn a little bit more about, more data is great, but it's what we do with that becomes the most important next step in being able to analyse it. And that with, especially if you start to look at sports science or sports medicine, that, we all wear these amazing devices that track everything that we do. What's really important now is actually working through the noise of the 50 things that we're tracking. What are the few things that actually make a difference in the performance or changing that? And regardless of whether or not you're doing that for business or for athletes or for whatever, I think we're going to go through that refinement of, we've got all the data now. It's about what is the key business problem that we're trying to solve. And that, I think, is the jobs that you ladies and gentlemen will have when you graduate don't even exist yet. And that's what I love about, this environment, that it's constantly changing and growing. And, you pursue it with passion. We're learning more and more every day.
It's really great. Vaishali, would you like to add to that? What do you think data science will look like in maybe the next 5 years even?
My angle, I think, remains the same, of data democratization. I believe that I've seen industry change from, 8 years back. I had to literally explain to people what analytics could do to their business, what impact we will get, what are the positive impacts, these are the benefits and whatnot. And the conversation has completely changed now. Every organization, every single person knows that most of the organizations are having a digital transformation. So they have understood that they have to embrace analytics and move forward in data science, in other technologies. The question remains as to the niche part of it. I believe that with the data democratization, everybody wants to grasp onto the data and ask questions and get to the answers quickly and faster. For example, what Daniela and Jenny just discussed about predictive analytics, for example, I mean, there are platforms coming out which could help you in choosing the right models, even without you having that extensive background. That does not mean that you do not require the expertise of the real data scientists. Now that you have citizen data scientists, coming up everywhere, I think it'll go hand in hand. But the data democratization is something that I totally believe in. Will completely change the industry going forward. And of course, with the new advancements, if we get more assistance, for example, I'm right now learning the assisted modeling, which helps me with machine learning. It's something that I had never thought that I could understand, or I could get my hands on. Natural language processing, for example. These things I could not believe 5 years back that I would be talking about it. Forget about doing or knowing them, but I think the software these days allows you, makes it more simple for anybody to ask questions, get the data, and learn it in a very simplified manner. I think this will continue.
And I think probably the new thing that we'll all have to worry about is the emotional intelligence too, right? I was very lucky enough to sit on a panel on International Women's Day where we talked about ethics as part of this. And I think that is definitely going to be something that all of you will have to, as we have to adapt to, as we move more to predictive models and things like that, and making sure that, emotional intelligence is being taken into account and that there's no bias based on the data sets and things. So I think we're at the tip of that. And I look forward to seeing how, the better algorithms come into play to really be able to work through some of those decisions, certainly around recruitment and things like that, that we're certainly seeing a lot of organizations trying to move towards more machine learning and artificial intelligence.
I agree.
And data privacy as well, because obviously now that we are collecting and harassing huge amounts of data, there's a shift in the sensitivity towards data privacy issues as well.
So anyone who's doing law as part of any of their discussions is potentially it's a good area to know, to actually understand moving forward, because I think governments will struggle to legislate fast enough for the technology that's coming. So certainly from a business point of view, if you've got an understanding of, data privacy and data protection, it certainly could help you navigate through for certain customers and clients as well.
Well said.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. So there's still a lot of ambiguity when it comes to ethics, and it'll be really interesting to see how that progresses as we move on the next couple of years. So I guess next question, straying away into a new topic, is for students, how important would it be for students to start working in the industry from the moment they begin studying, or I guess like getting experience, whether it be professionally at a job or even doing their own little projects or stuff like that. So how important would you consider that, and how could students go about gaining that experience from the start? Might ask Jenny.
So yeah, it's an interesting thing, and I think this is where your careers will be very different to potentially what mine was, in the sense that variety, I think, is a great thing, having different kind of skills. As I mentioned, I had a random extra unit that I needed to do at university, and I decided to do radio. So I did a comms as part of that. And Hugh knew that, 15 years later, when I was doing live radio interviews and, live television, that kind of stuff would actually become quite useful. So it's kind of a bit of a mix in combining your passions and understanding that. I think the more well-rounded you are, depending on whether or not you will be customer facing, okay? And that's probably the little bit of a difference of this, is that I chose to walk away from being a programmer and become much more customer facing. So I've moved through, in my career, I've been a coder, I was a trainer, I worked in pre-sales, I was in marketing, and then, I went into sports management from a, technology point of view. So I'm of try many things that interest you, especially if you're going after the, the customer facing role of understanding your technology. Me knowing how to code helps in the sense of having a conversation with someone when someone asks me, can we do something? The other thing is that my developers don't like it when they try to, spin a yarn of, it's going to take months to do something. I go, it's not going to take months. I could do it in a week. You should be able to do it in a day, kind of thing. So I'm much more of the well-rounded, and the way in which I would advise that is ask questions. Okay, if someone says no to you, don't stop. So I'm now taking the new philosophy. You got to get 3 no's before they mean it. So it's that constantly find people around you who interest you, who you think you can learn from, and ask them. Okay, I think all of us have talked about passion. I've got many places. I've talked my way into many places because I've pursued it, and I've shown that I'm keen, that I don't know everything, and I'm going to ask questions. So for me, a well-rounded, depending on what you want to do, ask questions and get out there and try to, get as much exposure to the topics that interest you as best you can. Bit of a rounder way about answering your question. Hopefully that helps.
That's very helpful, thank you. Vaishali, how would you respond to that? How important do you think it's for students to pick up these skills, the projects, or experience from the start?
I'll answer this question with 2 examples. So one of them is within Alteryx, we have this program called Alteryx for Good, and I was lucky to participate in one program called Alteryx for Using Data for Social Good program. We had 15 students in Australia participate in that program, and we had 4 charities, 4 not-for-profit organizations who participated with us, which were Are You OK, the Smith Family, Royal Flying Doctor Services, and Food Bank Australia. And the theme this time was that all of these students would be given about 2 months of time, and they would learn the business challenges, the problems that these not-for-profit organizations face currently, and they would aim to solve them using any software. Obviously, because Alteryx was involved along with our partner RXP, the focus was more around Alteryx, but they were free to use any technology out in the market, and a lot of them used R, Python, and Tableau as well. But the whole idea was to expose these students to the professional world, to firstly understand what are the business challenges at a corporate level, because here you are looking at the data which are affecting lives. Secondly, you are understanding the problems behind them. Thirdly, you are understanding what tools and technologies come into play for each and every path. And finally, bringing the outcome, taking out the value, and then presenting it back to the organization, saying, hey, this is what we feel that this could be a value to your organization in terms of the benefits or impacts different to what you're currently doing. I felt that that was a great program. I felt that I wish I had that when I was a student. Because such programs always allows a student to look at the other side, the corporate world, but also get to learn quite a lot. All of those students who met me on day one had no idea about predictive analytics, about data preparation, blending, spatial analytics, it's different terminologies that I speak or maybe our customers speak at a day-to-day basis, but they had enthusiasm, they had passion. One of the ladies, I still remember, she came to me and she said, I'm very scared of coding. I really don't know if I've signed up for the right program. And she ended up being the runner-up. You will not believe. She spent those hours talking to community, talking to other people who are on the same path. She made a lot of mistakes, but she learned quite a lot. She did not hesitate in reaching out to me, making other mentors as well as other peers, taking the side project really seriously because she understood that this is an upskilling for herself. I think such students always have a bright future, always. While these students were presenting their findings back to us, it's a true story. While they were presenting it, the charity, the non-for-profit organizations, as well as people from Altery and RXP were there on the board. While we were listening to the presentations, a lot of people in the judging panel said, we want to hire her, we want to hire him, let's hire them. This is very natural because we are always on the lookout for bright talent. We are always on the lookout for passionate people. We may not have the right opportunity for you right away, but if you show your skills, your enthusiasm, your technical skills in a very, in a good manner, you're always up for sale in the market, is what I feel. Second one is the community. So as I said, I'm the Stanford ambassador for women in data science for Australia, and I was conducting this conference just this year where Daniela and Jenny were present, and that is where Tegan reached out to me and said, "Hey, I'm a part of UTS. I would like to organize a webinar someday. Would you like to stay in touch and whatnot?" I really liked it. Reach out to your network, reach out to your peers in the industry. People are willing and helpful, and to join them to your community and whatnot. So, and this, I was willing to participate just because Tegan said, "Hey, would you like to come in?" And I said, "Yeah, why not?" So, things, one dot connects to other. Do not hesitate and be unstoppable, as Jenny said as well.
Awesome, I love that. Go out there and network.
Yeah.
Daniela, I'd like to hear your response.
Yes, so look, I couldn't agree more, and especially because I got my first job, because I participated in a project with university and then I was hired. Completely agree that whatever experience you manage to have within a company, it's an opportunity for you to show your skills, and it will be for sure valued. Even nowadays, like every day, I go into work with the mindset that I'm interviewed for my next role or assess anyway, every day. So it's an opportunity for you to be recognized for your skills. Also, it's an opportunity for you to develop soft skills that are not directly related with your fields of study. So again, it's not, when you come to work, you're assessed against different criteria, and some of them are soft skills like communication, but also negotiation, being able to be a team member, to collaborate. And that will become even more important because there's this perception that as, for instance, artificial intelligence will mature as a field, what will set us apart as human beings will be the fact that we are able to collaborate with each other, to negotiate. And this is something that, for now, a machine won't be able to do very easily. So when you have, or if you have an opportunity to go into the workforce and have a work experience within an industry, try to focus on developing those soft skills as well, because it will be valuable for you in any job that you end up having.
Yeah, definitely the network is important, and it was a good call out to Tegan because, we're here because, at that Women in Data Science event, she came up and spoke to all of us, was engaging, and from there you meet so many people. So definitely use these types of groups to make connections both internally and externally. You never know when you're going to bump into someone. It's a very small, country that we work in. And sometimes these days you get so much further with an introduction than you do otherwise. So definitely use the networks and ask questions.
All right, fantastic. I guess the next question is, I know you already mentioned like some aspects of it, but what would you look for when you're hiring someone like a junior position in your company? What kind of soft skills, technical skills, or just any features that would help the person stand out? So,
so for me, because now the roles that I recruit in a more sort of salesy kind of thing, and I think Daniela made the point before, it's not necessarily going to be all about your technology skills, because technology is going to continue to change. So what I will always look for is someone who is passionate, who takes an interest in the company. So, if you're interviewing with a company, take the time to learn about that company. Because what I would normally do is, one of my first questions is go, well, what do you know about SAP? So, do a little bit of research. So you actually know a little bit about the company itself and some of those types of things, because that shows to me that you have an initiative and that you're willing to go the extra mile to learn that type of thing. So the roles I recruit for are more around that communication capability, but I am looking for someone who is interested in learning and asking questions. So for me, it's more around, taking that little bit more effort. And then obviously, the things that you've done, sell yourself. You're the person who knows the most about you. So try to be as confident as you can be. And I know not everybody is an extrovert, but in the first little part of an interview, tell me all the cool things I need to know about you, so we can kind of engage in a conversation. So I'm going to be looking for those interpersonal skills, and really that that you're able to tell me the really good things about you, that then we can sort of work on together. The other thing would be is ask questions. So it's a two-way street, right? For that point of view, is that show that you're keen about learning more about the role, and then it's not just a one-way street from an interview point of view. So they're the kind of the things that I'm looking for.
Awesome, thank you. Vaishali, could you tell us what you'd be looking for?
Pretty much what Jenny said. On top of that, I would say specific to the role, if I'm hiring them for pre-sales role at Altery, I would assume that they are very much familiar with their platform, have looked at the community, reached out there, also got certified, because certification is absolutely free. The license is free for students to download. So anybody can download and learn the basics and whatnot. I assume that they would have done the pre-work already and not come in as a blank slate, is my understanding. If I'm hiring anybody, I like the proactiveness in students or just anybody in general, instead of me telling them that this needs to be done, if the person has to be proactive. The other important aspect is, I guess, looking at the bigger picture. The person needs to understand the business value. A lot of times technical folks forget the value that their solution is actually driving in a bigger picture. They sometimes just love to sit in front of the laptop and just focus on that one particular problem. If I do not get this error, my job is done now. But it doesn't really work out in the real time. You have to understand how this is driving the bigger business picture, in what could be done better. You shouldn't be just following the process that's been given to you. The task is just a job, but how are you being proactive and finding ways to maybe save some more time, maybe save a few hours here or there, or save some efforts there. I think that's what I'm looking for. And of course, within pre-sales job, it requires a lot of communication and the soft skills, talking to people. So that's again really, really important.
Awesome, thank you. And finally, Daniela?
Yeah, sure. So as I said before, because the roles within my team are quite technical, and you don't need to be an expert, but I do require a certain degree of technical expertise. So I can't have a data scientist working in my team who's not able to query a database or use the right visualization when visualizing data. And at the same time, do agree with what was said before. You need to show me passion, because I'm very passionate and we need to work well together. Certain degree of personality, because obviously we are a team, so we need to work well within a team. I need to work well with you and you need to work well with me as well. To the point where, like, I remember a few years back, this question was asked to me. So, well, what are you looking for when you hire your next team member? And at the point, my view was completely technical. I would hire the most brilliant data scientist, the one who can deliver, write code, package up libraries, and deliver me the solution that's bulletproof with no bug whatsoever. And then my mentor told me, well, what if I tell you that instead you should be looking at how you work well in a team? So the soft skill more than the technical skills. Yeah. Obviously a degree of curiosity, because as we said over and over before, it's continuous learning. So you need to be able to continuously improve on your skills and learn new ones. And also, again, networking, because when you implement a solution, when you work in a data scientist role, you need to understand who are the people you are contacting to get the data, who are the people you need to convince that your solution is valuable. How do you establish a relationship with them so that they trust you and they support you when eventually your solution is taken to the executives or to the board? So again, networking is very important. Your ability of establishing those strong relationships is very important.
Thank you. I like the part where you mentioned about being curious. That's very interesting. So thanks for that. That's very helpful. I guess now we'll shift to more questions specific to your careers. First one being, what are some of the most challenging aspects of your career or job? Daniela?
Yeah, sure. So at the moment is educating the business, because, and I'm sure that Jenny and Vaishali will have more to add to this. But I find this in many respects, people have gone to conferences and have the wrong idea about data science and especially machine learning. And they have a perception that's much more easier to implement than it is in reality. And so that, and also proving value. Because obviously one thing is having an algorithm that performs very well, and one other thing is having an algorithm that's adding value to the business. So you might have like an algorithm performing very well, but then the cost of implementing that algorithm, it's more than what the benefit for the company. Yeah. Or you may have an algorithm performing very well, but there are ethical concerns in implementing the solution, and you need to look very carefully. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. Jenny, could you tell us what maybe some challenges of your career are?
So there's probably a couple. You know, tongue in cheek, probably the most recent one for me was constant travel. I've literally lived out of a suitcase for the last 8 years. I left Sydney many years ago. And I, you know, would normally only spend 3 or 4 weeks at a time in one location before moving on. So although it was fun to dedicate my life to my job, it certainly took over. So that's, you know, kind of the pros and cons a little bit of traveling the world. The other one is probably understanding, and again, a little bit of what Daniela's already said, is understanding the environment that you're working in. We're always going to have to work with challenging people who disagree with you. I'm an extreme extrovert and very task-oriented. So sometimes I've got to learn that not everybody can make a decision like this, and you have to respect the people around you who need a little bit of time. So it's kind of, you know, probably learning to work with different teams of people. I've been lucky enough to, you know, work with teams all over the world. So culturally, it's important, you know, when you go to Japan, they don't like you to hug them. Luckily, you know, I'm the Australian who was the koala, and they got used to me pretty quickly. But I think it's about being tolerant of your environment. And, you know, when you go into a new organization, and you try to be as respectful as possible in understanding how that team likes to work. So you can fit in and learn. So some fun ones.
I can agree with the travel part 100% and the cultural differences, of course. Having quite a lot traveled myself. I remember even at Altery just this year, so my daughter had her first fall and I wasn't there. And I felt so guilty and I felt so bad that, oh my God, what am I doing? So that's a part of life, I guess, as a working woman, that sometimes you just get into that emotional side. Um, what else have I got? One of the other challenges that I face is while I speak to different industries, different personas, I guess switching between those is sometimes a challenge, which I still find at times. Because one day you're talking to, or maybe within the same day, within the same organization, sometimes if I'm talking to, say, a big bank, different teams, because they are so niche into the work that they're doing, they kind of assume that when you talk to them, that you instantly understand what their business problem is, and they start talking in their jargons and whatnot. And then it takes you a bit of time to say, hey, hold on, I really have no clue what this, ATA means and whatnot. So could you just take a step back, give me a bigger picture? And you'll be surprised sometimes they find it hard to give the bigger picture because they are so very much working in that particular niche. So this is my department, this is my role, this is who I report to, this is what I do. So getting those nuggets out of those customers and saying, hey, I'm here to help you in your analytic process automation or digital transformation, let me take a bigger picture, step back and then help you out. And of course, transitioning between different roles as well. So a C-level executive will talk at a very high level. They would have sometimes very little idea about the nitty-gritty of the technical problem itself, versus an analyst might not really have a bigger idea about the growth and the bigger picture of as to where the organization is going, etc. So finding the right balance while you're speaking to them is a challenge, I guess, which is a part of life again. Another personal challenge for me is upskilling myself when updating. I feel like we have so many new technologies and things coming out in the market that you just have to be abreast about what's upcoming. Even within Alteryx itself, we do have the roadmap and whatnot. So understanding, oh, okay, that's coming up new, and I need to recertify myself every year and for whatnot. So that just keeps me on my toes, I guess.
Awesome, that's great to hear. Just one more last question before we move on to questions from the audience. And that is, I really like this question. If you were to restart your career, is there anything you would do differently? So maybe Daniela, could you start us off?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a natural introvert. So I'm very jealous of Jenny and people like her who can be naturally so at ease and confident when talking to other people. For a long time, I was happy to be in my little bubble and become like a technical expert with very technical expertise and a very good coder. But the soft skill and engaging with business stakeholders were perhaps a little bit lacking. And so that's something that I made a conscious effort to try and force myself to step out my comfort zone and improve on those skills, because I recognized that they were valuable for me to grow professionally.
Fantastic, thank you. Jenny, would you like to add to that? What would you do different if you were to restart your career?
Yeah, I think it's, I've made many mistakes, but as the older and wiser you get, you actually realize that you learn from those. So, there's not too many things I would change. Probably that thing of like going, well, if you make a mistake, the world's not going to come to an end. As long as you're willing to learn from it and take responsibility. And that's kind of the thing, right? I suppose it's more around having confidence in yourself, in knowing that you can't know everything. And if you're sitting in a meeting with a whole heap of people, ask a question. Back yourself that, your area of expertise, you can't possibly know everything. So back yourself is don't ever sit in a meeting if someone's talking about an acronym that you don't know what it is. Speak up, ask. And don't ever feel shy about, not knowing necessarily what's being discussed. It's way better to ask a question than it is to sit there for an hour and then realize that you have no idea what's being discussed around you. So probably that's the thing, but I don't have too many regrets because they were all learning opportunities, right? And I did make some monumental mistakes, but you survive and you learn from them. Yeah.
I would say that I tapped into the power of community a bit late. That is something that I would change, because I moved from India to Singapore, and I had no friends, nobody there. So I was obviously just interacting within my company itself, and of course with customers and whatnot. But I never realized the potential of external community outside of my organization or my family or friends. Same thing happened when I moved to Australia from Singapore, and for a couple of years, I guess, I did not have much interaction outside of this zone of my work or life or family. And it was only after I established the Women in Data Science a community conference over here that I realized that, oh, there are so many people in the same space, and it's very refreshing sometimes to talk to people who are not in your organization, who have who are facing similar challenges but in different phase of life, different organizations, etc. So that tapping the power of community or user groups, even if you're learning Power BI or Tableau, ClickView, just go and attend the user groups, make friends there, have networking, and it's a lot of learning that boosted a lot of confidence in me, and also gave me a few good ideas that, oh, I could do this. You share best practices there, and I feel like I realized this quite late. I should have done that very early on, maybe from my student life. I would change that.
Awesome, thank you. So now we'll be moving on to questions from the audience. So I guess in the audience in general, if you have any questions, please put them down in the chat, and I guess because we'll love to answer that. So the first one is from Ian, who asks, Jenny, do you have any publications around how you developed metrics with the tennis players and coaches?
Yeah, there was quite a few articles that were being published, and the most recent one was the patterns of play. So if you search for WTA, so the actual product that we developed was called SAP Tennis Analytics, and there's quite a few YouTube documents and different articles that have been written over time that talked about the process of what we went through. And also now, obviously, we're the data science. So when I started building this solution sort of 6 years ago, it was very much a reporting solution. We weren't doing anything with predictive. And then most recently, the last major development that was predicting patterns of play. And that's where we started to move more into that. So yeah, there's heaps of stuff around. I'm happy to share some links, but yeah, if you search for the data analytics with the WTA, you'll see a whole lot of ways in which we did that. Hope that answered the question.
Thank you. The next question is from Hamish, and this question is to Daniela. He says, can you give us all an idea about what the experience of new members who come into your team is, and straight from uni, and what kind of things you'll have them doing at the start, what their first piece of work might be, etc.?
Yeah, so it would be first trying to assess your skills, because as I said, I'm not expecting any new member to be a unicorn. So it's a matter of assessing your current skills and also your preferences. You may have like an interest in becoming a business analyst and surfacing insights through or building dashboards. You may want to become a core data scientist and spending all your time developing algorithms. You may want to become an expert in technologies and veer more towards a data engineer role. So it's a matter, as I said, to establish what your current skills are and where your interests lie. And then what we generally do is, and if you don't know that, that's fine as well. In that case, we generally ask students to rotate within teams, and it could be within different areas in my team. As I said, you can have an experience as a business analyst, experience as a data scientist, and experience as a data engineer, but we also offer rotation through different areas within IT. And then we generally implement like a kind of mentoring program. So you'll be spending 6 weeks working as a data scientist, 6 weeks working as a business analyst, and 6 weeks working as a data engineer. So it's a way of, as I said, negotiating with the students, depending on skills and interests, what could be the potential. If you're interested in data science, which is what generally I've been asked about, your day-to-day job will be doing a little bit of analysis and being shadowed by a senior or more mature data scientist who will guide you through the process of implementing a solution in a business context.
Thank you. Next question comes in from Louis, and I guess this is a general question for all of you. What role do you want to see universities play to support future data scientists?
Yeah, that's a great question. From my point of view, I think it's the well-roundedness. We're getting much better as an organisation, SAP, in some of the university alliance programs that we're doing. We actually do much better. We have a Young Explorers kind of where we deal with primary school kids, and I think for us it's the ideas. You know, what I love about working with uni students is we think so differently that you have no boundaries, which I naturally have boundaries in my thinking because experience gets in the way. So I think it's the challenge of working out of, you know, dealing from universities, understanding to push those barriers, and now that, you know, the technology is there to support any idea. And I think that's where it's kind of understanding that and then learning the transition of, well, then how do you take those ideas into the business world? And I think, you know, when I left university, I had this green idea of, you know, all code was perfect before it was released. I think it's good that, you know, I think now that universities spend a much more time where you do on-job placements to actually understand how the real world works, and that, you know, we all release code sometimes that we know that we shouldn't, but we know that we can patch it pretty quickly once we get it into market. So I think it's a little bit around, you know, to push the challenge, but to also, you know, to work with organizations in, you know, internships and things along those lines to really, that when you hit the world, you know a little bit more about what you're trying to achieve, and it's not such a culture shock. Yeah, I'll leave it to the academic.
Yeah, I would say in terms of the job readiness, I agree with Jenny. And I think back in my days, maybe I had a wrong perception or something. As a student, I felt that, you know, once I get a job, I will be trained there. So, you know, the company is going to invest 1 year or 6 months on me on training and upskilling myself, and then I will be ready to do my job. I feel like the times have changed now, and companies are mostly looking for job-ready people. There are programs in almost all organizations, you know, for onboarding, especially from the university graduates. So not scaring you all that, you know, there'll be nothing to help you or making you shadow, as Daniela said. But all in all, there's an expectation that, you know, because you have so many free avenues outside of university as well, it's up to the students to become proactive, to keep on learning new courses, get yourself certified, keep yourself abreast in the market in whichever field that you want to pursue in. And the universities have a role in, you know, bringing such industry panel sessions to yourselves, or maybe, you know, you yourself organize it through your networking sessions and whatnot. But just to be abreast of what the industry really expects from the students, and be prepared from both from the technical perspective as well as from the expectation perspective.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Next question from Jetto is, lost it. What technical skills, such as coding languages or BI tools, would you say would be the most useful in today's field?
Yeah, look, I said many times, you need to have an open mind. So obviously there are programming languages that are very, like, they're mainstream. So R or Python. I don't have a preference in my team. If your preference is coding in R, I'm fine with that. If your preference is coding Python, fine with that too. Bearing in mind that tomorrow there may not be R and Python. Could be Julia, could be another language. Same with Power BI versus Tableau versus another analytical tool. These are the analytical tool of today. Tomorrow may be different. Tomorrow they may have different functionalities. And so again, obviously there's a plethora of courses available, and like having an understanding of how these solutions are working, it's beneficial. But for instance, I've been exposed to Tableau, I've been exposed to Click, I've been exposed to Power BI. The functionality are quite similar. So you should be able to fairly move from one to the other once you understand more or less how the platform are working. So don't be fixating on, I should pick either Power BI or Tableau or Click. Pick one, try to understand the basic functionalities. You'll be able to switch to another quite easily.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more in the sense of what school, it breaks my heart to say that, probably Power BI is probably one that is getting the most, market share at the moment, obviously with Microsoft. I'm a traditionalist, I'm business objects, Crystal Reports. I still use Crystal Reports every day. It's always the joke that I think I can build something faster in Crystal, but I've also been doing it for like 25 years, right? So I agree. I don't think you need to be an expert in anything. You need to have the fundamentals. Because as Daniela has very adequately put, that the tools are changing. As long as you know the fundamentals, you'll pick up a lot of those. And definitely, I think, Python and R from a language point of view are the other ones that you need to know, because the foundation of that, and then obviously using applications on top of that, it's always good to be able to read code and change it if you need to. Yeah.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. You'll be surprised, a lot of organizations that I still speak to are working on Excel. So I'm sure you are ahead of that. But again, not saying that Excel is not a good tool. You may be, you might understand the concept very well and translate the same concept, whatever you're doing in Excel, into a better, faster platform that just saves you more time. And that's where your role comes in as the student, or as a new person in the organization, introducing those new technologies. As Daniela and Jenny said, it could be, you have to be tool agnostic. Whichever organization that you end up having a job in, you do not really know which technology they have right now, and they may change it the next year or whatnot. But if you understand the concepts very well, that this is my data, this is how I prepare it, and this is how I analyze it, if you understand the core concepts of it, it should be really easy for you to transition. But having said that, I would definitely say, do keep an edge on these technologies. A lot of these have programs that are free for students, so utilize them, right? So they offer a lot of privileges to students. They give you free software, they give you free training, free certifications. So make use of them. If you are really interested in data visualization, data analytics, data science, don't hold yourself back. Keep doing all these side projects, hustles, and enrich your resume. That will only make you a better candidate, I would say.
Cool. Okay, next question from Tegan to all. What have been some of the most rewarding moments in your career?
Do you want to go first, Daniela? Because you always seem to go last. I want to let you go.
That's all right. Thank you. So I think it was when I once had a brilliant data scientist in my team who was way better than I was ever. And because, as I said before, I'm naturally an introvert, and it was also my first role as a people manager, and I thought that I was terrible. Every day I would come, try to do my best, but doubting myself or being very harsh with my judgment about how I was performing. And so when eventually I moved to another role, this data scientist came to me, and I tried to explain to her, look, I'm moving because I don't think that I'm doing my best in this role, and I'm not being too helpful for you, for your professional development as well. And she said to me that actually she never noticed that. I was one of the best managers that she had before. She was really, like, she learned from me, not obviously from a technical perspective, but from the soft skill and the mentoring that I gave her. So yes, that's still a dear moment in my professional career.
That's a great story, Daniela. Love it. I guess in my career, personally, I feel when I established the Women in Data Science conference, and when I saw it picking up and so many women getting benefited with the community and the outreach of it, the networking of it, personally, I feel that very rewarding. Professionally, I feel when I won the Women in ICT National Award in Australia, I think that gave me that stamp that, yes, I'm doing something good. And I also felt really good internally because of the struggles that I had to face through during, my migration journey as well as my childhood. So all of it just came into my head as to, what all my parents sacrificed and whatnot, and just gave me a bit of satisfaction saying, all right, I'm on a good path. So doing good. So that was my moment.
I've got a couple, but I'll go with a fun one because the ladies have gone with very good inspiration. I've got the hairs on my arms were standing up, Daniela, when you were telling that story. That's an awesome story, and it's always good to get that unexpected praise. Yeah. So one of the things I was very lucky is in working in tennis is in the relationships that I was able to form with the players. We worked with Angelique Kerber as player ambassador. So I spent many, hours working with Angie. I'm not sure if you know, Angelique Kerber won Wimbledon in 2018. I was lucky enough to be in the player box for 6 of the 7 matches that Angie played that fortnight in London. So I kind of topped off my tennis career of sitting there. And it was quite funny that in Angie's box for the final when she played Serena, there were 6 of us in her box and there were 21 people sitting in Serena's box. And true to my statistician form, it was my responsibility to keep track of the score and also how many match points Angie had defended and ultimately needed to go on to win the title. So that probably is a reasonable highlight that I'll share with everyone today.
Yeah, that's very lovely to hear. Next question comes in from Anisha. She says that stress for many students is a question, what will you do when you graduate? So what tips would you give to students who wish to pursue a career in data science or analytics? However, they do not have necessarily the experience to know which niche they're interested in specifically.
That's an interesting one, and I'll take it from a slightly different kind of angle. So with SAP in Australia, we don't offer a huge amount of technical roles, but we do have roles from a sales and pre-sales point of view. So potentially, there's an opportunity to move into those types of roles. We're having the technical foundation. If you're a people person and you're looking at wanting to look at that, certainly is an opportunity around looking at those types of things and having that, that foundation of understanding it. Daniela probably has a better answer from a more technical point of view, but yeah, certainly from my point of view, there's certainly opportunities in sales and pre-sales.
Yeah, so of course, as I said, Lendlease offer a number of graduate internship, and I'll be happy to share with Tegan more details on that if you're interested on how to apply for those opportunities. And as I said, there are different roles. You'll be potentially rotating through different departments, so that precisely because you may not have a very clear idea of the different roles and what entails and goes into the different role. In that way, you get exposed to different departments. And you may also find some people, for instance, said that this preconception really wanted to break it into data science, and then they discovered that they were working very well with another team, decided to go another pathway. So again, I wouldn't be too, unless that's your call, you really feel strongly that you want to become a very successful data scientist and that's what you want to be in your life, I would suggest that you try and get an opportunity to work within a company and then build from there where you want to end up.
And while this question was asked, I just Googled at what we have within our Alteryx community, and then I figured out that we have a lot of free resources, especially learning path for data science. So perhaps that's a good free resource to check out and see. It's a hands-on, so it allows you to explore the different aspects and see whichever you like better. I guess there's a ton of blogs and whatnot, free resources available, especially for students. So maybe have a have a look out there. That might help you in making your decision better, I guess.
Very helpful, thank you. Next question is from Guitar, and is doing an internship necessary to get a job after getting a bachelor's degree? What extra mile should we do during university studies to have the prospect of getting into a good company? So such like that. Vaishali, could you answer?
Yeah, look, I was an international student myself, and I faced a lot of difficulties because of the visa status and whatnot. So, but that was quite a long time ago. I'm not sure how it is now. I would not say it is necessary. If you can get it, then there's nothing better than that, of course. But a second part to it is, I would say, as I said, going back to the networking aspect of it, if people are not aware of you, they may not pass the good opportunities on to you because they don't really know you and they don't know how, a lot of times as employers, we are on the lookout for, great people, great talents to join us, even if it's for a side project, something that I just mentioned, like Alteryx for Good program. We were on a lookout for students. We wanted bright, talented students from data science who would like to, participate in this industry sessions. So it's always good to network and make yourself out and connect with people, the right people. I may be having, future programs within the Alteryx for Good. So I will always be on the lookout for, great talent. So I guess if not internship, at least get a side project somewhere where you get an exposure of real life challenges would be good, I would say. Join communities is the second part. Yes.
I just wanted to add to that. I did a Bachelor of Applied Science, and then I'm not a great student. So as a child, I had a learning difficulty. So writing and reading were kind of a challenge for me. Coding was something that I kind of picked up. So the other thing is there's many ways to achieve. I have full respect for the academics. I went a slightly different path that I did as little study as I could from a university point of view. And then I started working for smaller companies where I was potentially given opportunities. So it may depend a little bit on the brand of organization that you're trying to get a job with, as well as to how much additional things that you'll need to do. There are plenty of smaller companies, startup companies, who there are opportunities. So I kind of took a slightly different path than doing lots of traditional study. And then at that point in your career, it tips over that your life experience then kind of takes over. So I think it's whatever works for you. That if you're a great student, then yes, study as much as you can. But if you were like me and you needed to get out there, then smaller companies potentially are a good way for you to go. So you may not get a job with a big brand straight away, but you can certainly work your way through it that way as well. So I would say that as well.
Thank you. Next question, maybe Daniela, you can answer this, from Quinn. I hope you pronounced your name correctly. Someone wants to pursue a career in data science, but they don't have the background. What should they start learning?
Yes, so definitely statistics. You need to have a basic knowledge of statistical concept, and this will be useful even for a business analyst role. There's a plethora of courses that will teach you at least the basics of natural language processing, computer vision. Depends on your flavor. Again, we're not expecting you to become a unicorn. If computer vision is your thing, I'm sure that you will find a lot of material to get you started, and then from there you should decide whether you want to go hardcore or you're happy to just have an understanding. As Vaishali was saying, there are nowadays technology, they're not expecting you to become a core data scientist, developing like even things that are very advanced like computer vision. You may be able to use an out-of-the-box solution and develop application in that way. So it depends on, my suggestion would be, if you are very new to the field, find on Coursera, DataCamp, or Udemy, or whatever other mock course there's available online, one that you really like. You may find a professor that you really like and you find very engaging. Get a flavor and a feel for it, and then if you're interested, build on top. linking back to what Jenny was saying, I did, so when I did my studies, data science wasn't a thing, machine learning didn't exist. I did time series and I learned other approaches through a Coursera course when Coursera wasn't that popular either. But I was very surprised because I went into this course thinking, oh, it will be full of students, universities, or starting on the very base, and it wasn't true at all. They were very seasoned experts taking that course out of personal interest that I reached out to ask questions, like we said before, and kind of asking them to mentor me and teach me these new approaches. So all these kind of new ways to learn are available to you, and it was much more difficult when we, like me, Jenny, started. So take an advantage, start like a free course on whatever you feel you're interested in, and then progress from there.
Yeah, I've just shared a link of some free resources, a collection of, I think somebody from my US team has just collated a free resources list to how to enter into data science. So have a look.
Very helpful. Next question from Ian. Do any of the panelists experience imposter syndrome or have experienced imposter syndrome?
Absolutely, yes. Totally, yes, is the answer. I don't know why I felt that, and I would be lying if I say I do not feel that till now. At times, when I'm just switching between industries and whatnot, I feel like, oh my God, I may not be, the right person in this room and whatnot. So those thoughts do come in, but I feel like I'm in a much better space that I know how to get those negative thoughts out of my head now. Earlier on in my career, while I was still building and reaching out to people and whatnot, I was learning the ropes of my career. That's when I felt it the most. Yeah, but my tip is just be confident, and I feel like today's youth is more confident than what I was while I just came out of uni. So you all in good space.
Yeah, I kind of agree. It's kind of an interesting thing, right? That I don't feel it so much anymore, and I agree. The confidence is, if you're not sure, ask. You bring a lot to the table. So it's interesting, and it was a fun thing about culturally working in Germany. I spent a lot of time working out of our head office is actually in Waldorf, near Heidelberg in Germany, and we would go into these meetings. And I would sit there and ask question after question after question. And, when the meeting ends, like a lot of my German colleagues would go, aren't you concerned that people think that you don't know what you're talking about? And I go, there's plenty of things that I know. This area of it, how am I going to learn unless I ask? So I think from that point of view, when you're younger, maybe you feel that way. But no one's going to, kind of have a go at you for asking a question. If you ask an insightful question, that you've thought about it and you've done some research and you want some help, I think that's the best advice that I can give you around, how to deal with that kind of stuff. That, have confidence in yourself that you know a lot, but you can't know everything.
Thank you. Next question is from George, and this is to Daniela. What kind of companies would you suggest for data science?
So it depends on, again, what do you want to achieve in life. So there are companies that are more advanced. And here in Australia, for instance, banking, they will have systems and a volume of data, more data pipelines, more mature. Telecommunication companies, the likes of Google or Facebook, as well as Coles and Woolworth, will probably have already systems in place that will allow you to leverage data, huge volume of data, and experimenting with the cutting edge technology. But for instance, I work for a company, and it's basically a construction company. We have a diversified businesses, but construction is the core one. And it's not, from a technological standpoint and also like a data maturity, not too advanced, but there is huge potential. So at the moment, for instance, we are talking a lot about digital twin. how we could deploy sensors across all buildings and across eventually an entire city. How we could potentially like study how people interact with the environment and the building itself, how the building would have a life cycle like a product. You know, that a building will be built, will be used, and then we probably tear it down and build again because it's not useful for a future purpose. So again, it's a very promising field. When we had like the women conference back in March, was telling the audience that there are three very promising areas for data science, and it's healthcare, mining, and then again construction, because it's very immature at the moment, but there's a lot of potential for the future.
Thank you. And then final question from George again, and this is to Jenny. Do you think that a Bachelor of Applied Physics at UTS is a good pathway into data science?
That's an interesting question, and I suppose it depends on the field and who you're applying for jobs with. To me, these days, any degree shows that you have the ability of learning and around that. So it was nice I think Daniela did a really good job there of answering that question, because any industry these days is pretty much where data science can be applied. I think, you know, when I left university, it was much more around, you know, if you knew anything about IT, you were guaranteed to be able to work in any industry. I think data science now is that. So depending on the path that you want to map, the ability from a statistics point of view and the organizations of what you want to do, you know, any degree is a good foundation for that. And then it's a matter of teaming that up with your passion and also what the organization and the career path that you want to take.
Awesome, thank you. So I guess we will conclude the Q&A session here. I'd like to thank all of members who have asked questions and also panelists for your invaluable responses. Very interesting hearing all your different perspectives.
Thank you so much.
Really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.